A new cinematic trailer. 5 minutes, Jesus Christ. Budget's gone wild on this one. A Space Marine! Oh my god! Sorry. I was just practicing.
Victory. That is what the preachers cry from the spires of their temples. What commanders tell the soldiers in their service.
I will say, this is nice. This does look nice. It's the best animation I've seen from GW so far.
The Indomitus Crusade meets with triumph after triumph.
Hell yeah. Red booty time.
Day by day we tear Imperium Nihilus from the despoiler's grip. And though we are beset on...
Like, that does look like Xbox 360 level graphics, you know? Maybe the first Xbox. But, you know, they're getting better. They're definitely getting better compared to just, like, artwork slightly moving, you know? Using one of those free apps you download on your phone, and you, like, select the background, and all the background moves, and the character doesn't.
On all sides. With each battle, we drive back the mutant, the heretic, the alien.
Oh, Tyranid.
As I speak these words, our forces engage the remnants of Leviathan.
How's he talking without his mouth? It's crazy. It's like Matrix shit. Oh? Primaris with flamers? Guys, I'm going to make a video. 5 things you missed in the cinematic trailer for Warhammer 40,000. It's just me just going, flamers!
Reclaiming lost worlds. Atoning for old shames.
Oh, wait. Melter gun? Are they going to make Intercessors
Lost
Tactical
worlds.
Marines? Combi Melter? Flamer?
Atoning for old shames.
Holy shit, they're doing it all, guys. They're finally legends in the tactical squad. Oh, Lord.
The stars.
The sound design really good.
Taking the fight to the enemy.
Wait, this isn't second edition. This isn't second edition. Why is one of the really old Tyranid card defexes? It is. I love how they redesign it and then just bring the old design back out. It's one of these. There it is. The model's already out, guys. The model's already out. Sorry, I'll carry on. That does look cool. A fucking Hellfire Redemptor. Are you high? Are you high? A Hellfire Redemptor. Holy shit. Holy shit. Oh my god. Mate, I fucking love the Hellfire Dreadnoughts. They're so cool. They're so cool. Oh, mate, there was a lot to break down there. 5 things you missed. Hellfire Redemptor. If you just put Hellfire Dreadnought, I've actually got one. I've got one of the original ones. But if you put on Dawn of War, obviously, Dawn of War, love it. The Hellfire Dreadnought. Boosh. There it is. Assault cannon. Can swap this for a las cannon and a missile launcher. Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
You routed the Tyranids at Baal. We broke their high fleet.
Oh?
Soon, their foul...
Gravis Apothecary? Do they need a Gravis Apothecary? But that's okay.
Foulness will be but a memory.
This is just the new box set, right? But we've got to be careful because last time they showed sisters and everyone was like, oh, there's sisters in the new box set, and there wasn't.
That is what the preachers say.
Hellfire Dreadnought. I don't care about tuning shit. Wait, new Biovores, new Gaunts, new Carnifex. That's quite a lot to be fair. What's that?
Relief will not save us.
Is that the objective? Is he raising a banner? But fighting in combat?
Lies will not protect us.
It's quite hard to see the Tyrannid.
But it is our hope
That is cool.
that will
Veterans? Interesting.
us.
Oh my god! Primary Terminators! Terminators! Okay. Yes! Okay, that's sick. That is sick. Wait, are they Primaris? Yeah, they're nice. Is that a Gravis Terminator Librarian or Gravis Librarian? Or is it Primaris? Is it Firstborn? Who knows? Who cares? Okay, this is epic. I love that. That was good. That little bit was nice. This bit. That was comedy gold.
In the spires and the slums.
Outside of Vortex, or is it something else? Yeah, get fucked. Alright, no, okay. Anyway. Are they zone probes or something else? Jesus Christ. Is that a new zone throw? New Neurothrow,
Our
maybe?
people sing of victory.
Don't use psychic against the Tyranny, mate, you
Victory
fucking idiot.
as the galaxy burns.
Get on the warp, mate. Might as well to cast.
Victory as the
Is
Imperium
that new
walks
Space Marine
around us.
captain as well?
Victory as humanity rages against the dying of the light.
That's what he dreams about. In the morning. Everyone dying.
Victory.
That was good. That was a very good reveal trailer. That was much better than the last one. Really, really good. Well done, GW. Well done to whoever animated it. I'll never know your name. But that was a really, really good trailer. I really like that. There was a lot there. There was a lot there to look at. They literally just uploaded as well. There's a lot there to look at. That's quite exciting. There's quite a lot of new models there to think about. I'm interested to see what they're going to be doing with this like Primaris and Firstborn malarkey, because they've made such a big divide. They made such a big divide, and I don't know if they're just going to retcon all that. So I'm proud to be part of the team that watched that trailer. Hell yeah. Proud to be part of the team that enjoyed the trailer. Again, membership's the best way to support me, so if you do enjoy my content, then do consider becoming a member. Okay, we got two more to watch. And then we can go to the articles. New edition. So this is where we're going to really break it down now. We're going to really break it down.
Warhammer 40,000 is the world's most popular tabletop miniatures game.
It is true. Now, I will say, I'm preparing for a tournament in April. I printed 150 of the same terrain piece. And if they go, terrain rules are out the window, I am going to cry. Okay? I've been printing terrain for 3 months straight. I am just going to cry. So here goes.
Players command armies of genetically enhanced super soldiers, brutal monsters, powerful aliens, and destructive war machines to play out spectacular battles in the 41st millennium.
Whoa, a new edition? Oh my god!
Well, our mantra with this new edition has been streamlining.
We've been listening to the community, and that's a large part of why we've decided to focus the game as much as possible.
So they're going to get rid of stratagems, aren't they?
How can we keep the tactical depth and richness that players love, but examine every rule in the game? Does this need to be here, or is there another way that we can achieve the same result?
To secure victory, you must understand your strengths and the strengths of your enemy.
We've fundamentally changed the datasheets from the ground up,
Making them much more accessible and really focusing the rules onto the datasheet themselves. What the team's been able
No stratagems! All the casual players are going to be so happy and everyone else is going to be very more sad.
to do with this is really look at every unit in the game, make sure it has a really clear battlefield role and a thing for it to do, and then write the right rules for it.
your datasheet.
Oh. Oh. Wait. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. They've put Ripper Swarms in the unit with the Termagants. Are they going to get rid of Ripper Swarms as a unit? That's the first thing I see. I don't know if I like this, guys. I don't know if I like this. That's weird. That's very weird. There's no save. What's OC? Where's the armor save? Oh, it's there. I ignore me. It's in the wrong place. I was looking at the end. Guys. What? Okay. So attacks is obviously 1. So they've split up attacks and things and kept it all together. So when you look at a profile of a weapon, you've got that's how many shots, the range of shots, what you hit on, what strength it is, and what damage it is. That's fine. OC is objective control. Interesting. Sage is up top. Save is up top. Yeah, save is there. Yeah, I was looking at the end. I was like, where's the save? 9+, 10+ for leadership. Interesting. Lurking behavior. While this unit is within range of objective marker, models in that unit have the benefit of cover, whatever that means. And then each time this unit is targeted by an attack, if it contains a Ripper Swarm model, that attack must be allocated to that model. So they are gonna have to go down the index route, right? You can't just release this and then everyone else gets an FAQ. You can't just release this and everyone else gets an FAQ. This is it's got to be done. It's got to be full index. Everyone's going to have to get new rules all at the same time. So all the codexes are going to be out of date.
Rules all fit on a single card, and your army rules will fit on a single page.
One of the things
1-page rules! Oh my god!
we wanted to ensure was that everyone got to play 40k as soon as possible after the edition was launched. So to make that happen, all of the rules for everyone's armies via the datasheets and their army rules will be available for free.
From the darkness between.
Free rules? Day 1? Oh lord. Guys, I'm only a little bit nervous. Guys, I'm only a little bit nervous. Listen, new editions are great, but what if it's shit? What if it's really bad? Oh no. Oh, they're going to tell me terrain's just out the window, aren't they?
The stars, a twisted
Please
mockery
don't.
of evolution spawns fresh horrors.
It's a galaxy at war. This is the onset of what the Imperium will regard as the Fourth Tyrannic War. This is the largest Tyranid swarm ever recognized in the galaxy, emerging where no one's expected it. The Segmentum Pacificus.
To be a warrior of the Emperor in such times is to face an array of nightmares.
What we've managed to achieve with this edition is a game that players of Warhammer 40,000 will love for its tactical depth and choices, but is streamlined and plays much quicker.
The end result is faster, while still keeping all the flavour that you've come to love in Warhammer 40,000.
For players who've been with Warhammer 40,000 for the last 35 years, they've never seen anything like this before. We've never shown conflict at this scale.
Immersive and thrilling new gameplay.
They don't say anything. We made it faster.
Discover a major new narrative in the Fourth Tyrannic War. The new edition of Warhammer 40,000 deploys this summer.
Interesting. The new datasheet's fucking wild, mate. The new datasheet is wild. They just released Oh, they've released some more videos. Let's watch those as well. That's a nice miniature. That is nice. You know why it's nice? Because it's so fucking close to the original one, just upgraded. That's cool. That's cool. I've got so many Terminators unpainted, do I bother now? And then the last one is new Termagant. That is way more detailed than it was before. That is so nice compared to what it was before. That's cool. Wow.
A new edition of Warhammer 40,000.
Who fucking knew it?
Who knew?
Nobody called that, actually.
Nobody
It
had
was
any idea.
So good. I gotta tell you, growing up my whole life as a fan, there's something about
It's so quiet, 1
the
second.
dark 41st millennium that when you watched, and it was beautiful and it was stunning, but when you watched Sister, Adeptus Sororitas and the Ultramarines crushing some Necrons, there was a little bit of hope. There's a little bit of a glimmer.
That's all gone. That's all
Oh
gone.
yeah, that was the grimdark 41st millennium to a T, and
That was not a happy video.
it's the first time I've seen it tonight, and I am still excited at how not happy it was, actually.
But I think it just gives you like a sense of the absolute horrificness of not just like
You're gonna talk about data
Space
sheets or
Tyranids,
what?
which is pretty
Or do we
horrific.
get the talk, the video?
Your
first?
army rules will fit on
Yeah, the talk first.
These are the first company of the Space Marines. Each one of those chapters has Terminators. They are the best of the
They
Space
are
Marines.
nice.
And the new miniatures are absolutely what Terminators always were in your mind.
They are
These
good.
are
They are very
indomitable,
nice, those.
walking powerhouses of destruction.
They're just
juggernauts
crisper.
of hate.
It's
and
mostly the
fury
same. They're just
unleashed
crisper. They've
upon
not
the
even
enemies of
changed the shit.
mankind.
They
and
like
really
anything.
brought up to speed with the development of the miniature range as a whole in the new edition, as well as the way that the miniatures themselves have been scaled over time. And I'm especially excited because as I was watching the chat during some of the videos earlier, I saw a bunch of people saying, "Oh, I thought we were going to see new Terminator miniatures." And, well, you were going to see new Terminator miniatures, and they are stunning. They do all of the justice to
They
the
are good.
original sculpts.
Morning,
They do
Des.
all of the justice to the
I thought you'd be
aesthetic
in
and
bed
the
till
feel
midday.
of
Thanks,
Terminators in
mate.
the first place, while being
I
brought
just
up to the
decided
scale that
to
really justifies
not
what
stay
they
up till
are
3
and
a.m.
Yeah,
what
so
they
they stand really well in the army. They stand taller than a Primaris Marine. One of the things that's worth saying about these Terminators is that these aren't necessarily Primaris Terminators. They're not necessarily firstborn Terminators. Any Space Marine can earn the right to wear a suit of Terminator armor.
Interesting.
If they prove
I like
themselves, to get promoted to the first company, if they prove themselves to be
I like
worthy
that they've
of
just
the mantle
gone.
of wearing
Yeah,
Terminator
it's just
armor.
whatever. Whatever you
So
want.
these could
Whatever you
be
think.
worn by veterans of the first
No more drilling the Bolton. No, they got a lot better at that recently.
Wars. They could also be
Unless they
worn
drilled it
by
for the paint job.
Primaris veterans of the Indomitus Crusade or any other type of Space Marine veteran.
And this
Yeah,
is
they're
deeply
nice.
true in the lore for the models. This is canonical. This is the way that they are intended, and we're not being cheeky when we say that we've actually handled both the long range demand for new firstborn miniatures and for Primaris Terminators, because they are, when all is said and done,
That is a cop out.
Terminators. And
Yeah.
It could be anyone.
Whatever you
inside
want is probably
those.
going to be the vibe of the Codex.
The
Probably.
Terminator
Armor.
suits themselves are relics, right? So these are thousands of years old, and even
It's cool.
Belisarius
I like
War,
the
10,000
idea
years
of that.
fiddling around
That's
with
a
all the
that's a
tech he
nice
had,
cop out.
couldn't
You know what I mean?
improve
They are
on the
Primaris
Terminator
Terminators,
suit.
but they're also
So
normal
they still have their Crux
Terminators.
Terminatus with those shards of the
That's
Emperor's
how you
armor.
show up
You
the
can actually look there
divide,
at
the
Terminator in a bit
culture
more
war
detail,
of
and you can see
firstborn
that,
versus
every
Primaris.
single element of
Do
it,
whatever
like
the fuck you
pikes
want, and that's what they
cabling,
always say.
the
It's
Storm
great.
bolter and the helmet. They are recognizably the Terminators that you know and love. But
Yeah,
all
they're
of
very
it,
cool.
The detail is
They're
so
cool.
much crisper. The proportions and the pose are so much cooler. When you
They
see
were
these
just
guys
nostalgia
on the
baiting with
battlefield,
the
they
Space
really
Hulk
have a
comments, right?
presence. And obviously the Terminators come with all sorts of cool kit. The Power Fist and Storm bolter are standard.
Thousands of year old
The
suits of
unit
armor
also
that get
obviously
bigger every
comes
10
with
years or
Assault
so.
Gun. We
Like
saw
the
one of those
population,
earlier
mate.
as well. So it's just great to see such an iconic unit back in Warhammer 40,000.
That's
I can't
cool.
wait to see more.
That
of it. I
is
feel
so.
like we need to see
You
the
don't
other
realize
side
how
of the
fucking
spectrum as
small they are, do you? You don't realize how small they are until you put them next to a Primaris.
well. But first, I think it's good to highlight the difference in scale between the Terminators of old and the Terminators of today. And you can kind of see in this how their bulk and their size has not rendered the old Terminators to be tiny necessarily, but really fits much more prominently within the range of miniatures that are available for the Space Marine faction to kind of perfectly land in that new wave of miniatures we've seen over the last several years.
They look really good as well, facing off against something like the more recent Chaos Terminators.
Look at like the knee
some
pads.
of the kind of the bigger.
Look at the knee pads on this. That was always a problem with Terminators. The knee pads were just like that wide. It didn't make sense. Obviously, that was just to do with plastic. Now look at like the crispness of that knee pad compared to this one. Look at the size of the legs as well. The legs are just way thicker, but in proportion. And the new one isn't doing squats. Yeah, this one is definitely doing squats. If you repose the legs, it'd probably stand very similar.
Character models, so your
it just looks more realistic.
Like a Primarch, maybe like Gulliman or the Lion or something like that, leading us.
It just looks more realistic. Like obviously, it's a silly fantasy game. No one cares, but like with this Terminator, you've got the head here, you got the shoulders up here with the arms, and then you got like a squatty leg. So it's kind of like starfishing almost. Whereas this one looks a bit more natural. That is a really, really nice miniature. As much as Fall of GW, they always smash it with the miniatures.
Special brand of Terminators.
They've never fucked up with it.
The Archangels.
Except for maybe the Death Slayers got, but I like them.
Except
for these bad boys.
Beef against the Tyranids.
Except for these bad boys.
Serious beef. But so every chapter's Terminators are cool, and these models allow you to be as cool as Terminators always.
This is much better than just watching the reveal thing.
More. And speaking of the beef that they have for Tyranids, we've shown you a new Space Marine miniature.
Seems
but
only fair, doesn't it? Seems only fair.
The other side of the coin.
Army we have ever done.
Yeah, they're cool.
I'm excited about it as a long-time
the detailing. I can't pause this. The detailing on the scale just makes them look way better because it does look like the same miniature. Obviously, he's got 4 arms rather than 2 because I'm pretty sure the other ones don't have these extra arms. Yeah, like the detailing on the scales and stuff just really make them look more like an Apex Predator rather than just like flat.
Amount of work that's been done
mold lines everywhere.
Tyranid range feel both
so
nostalgic but also very fresh. And of course, anyone who watches the cinematic trailer should probably watch it carefully or rewatch it a few times carefully. But I think one of the things that's most exciting is that there's a natural alien nature to the Terrans, right? They're the most alien of races of the galaxy, right? So almost unknowable.
Here's your basic shit. Yeah, but they've revealed a lot, and this is just Adepticon. They've released a Lion and 2 models. There's obviously a new starter box coming. They've obviously got a new box set coming that we're revealing at Warner Fest, won't they?
Exploring that sort of very foreign, very alien, very truly unknowable element of the Tyranid with the new range. And I'm so excited to see the reactions of folks share even more of the new plastic range of Tyranids in the future.
Yeah, as you say, Mike, if you want a sense of like which new miniatures might be on the way for Tyranids, check out the cinematic. There are some returning favourites, it's fair to say. Some units that maybe haven't had the time in the limelight for a bit and are well-deserved new plastic kit.
Hey, you don't have to scream it to me.
You can see there. To be fair, I never noticed those before. But it's just nice. It's just nice. Look how like plain that looks compared to this one. Like there's those miniatures by One Page Rules or somebody, or I don't know, one company. I think Ninja painted one, and it was just like, wow, that's really cool. And this is like better than that.
Yeah, and there are some things that we've never seen before. So one of the hallmarks of the Tyranids, I suppose, is their continuous adaptation and evolution in the face of challenges. And the Hive Fleet has definitely taken that on board with this latest Tyrannic invasion.
And we can see here in the scaling again.
Not just talk about the scaling. Look at the paint job difference. Like obviously this was done in the 90s. Look at this compared. It's just far superior paint job. There's so much more blending, so many more gradients, so much more going on. Whereas this is white with a recess shade and then some funky stuff on the armor. Whereas here you got a little bit of everything going on. Like look at the color of the gun, the gradients, the shading. It's good.
While the Termagant has definitely come a long way from its very tried and true, the trusty, rusty old plastic kit, it hasn't been.
I don't want to buy some Termagants.
The development of it. It's still the same Termagant in terms of how it fits into the range as it used to be, just with that really fresh glow up, with that really.
I think it's the level of detail that really changes. So like I've got quite a lot of Termagants. I've got a Tyranid army. I've got about 30 Termagants painted up, I think.
Quite a lot. That's one squad, mate. Eddie, that's one squad. Shut up.
Numbers, you gotta
absolutely.
Those up,
they were mostly just to come out of a Tervagan, I think. Was what I painted them up for. But they're so detailed. Like the level of crispness on that model, and you can see now.
Imagine when we were all really jelly of heavy metal paint jobs in the 90s when we could all just do that now. Yeah, this is just a wash. Spray, wash,
so even though it's really,
couple of lines,
detailed, you can
easy.
paint those very quickly if you wanted to.
Absolutely.
You can see they
besides
now
just the
have thin
miniatures, there's a whole lot going on in the
contrast paint. That's
41st
true.
millennium, isn't there, with the arrival of this new Tyranid range? What does that bode for us in terms of when we talk about the actual development of the universe itself, Eddie?
Yeah, so the new
This
edition of
camera quality
Warhammer
is so
40,000 is the new Tyrannic War. It's the 4th Tyrannic War against the Tyranids. So what we saw at the end of the Arcs of Omen with the Return of the Lion was the end of that story. So that has a really solid, conclusive...
They haven't released all the books, Eddie. It hasn't ended yet. Are you going to repaint the Studio Army? I think so. If I'm going to get a bunch of new models for it, I might have to.
Has a big culmination.
I don't want to keep painting
showdown
black
between
with
the
blue
forces
spray.
of the Angels of Death and the forces of Chaos.
What High Fleet should I paint? Or how should I paint a High Fleet Tyranids if I'm going to paint a new ones? Spoilers? Yeah, literally, Kira.
And what we've done with the new edition is we've picked up the lens of what's going on in the galaxy. We've moved it to another part. In this instant, it's the western rim of the galaxy. So if
The Western Rim.
if you're familiar with your,
typically come from.
they come from the east usually. They come from the east. So if you're
Also,
familiar with
finishes
your
crazy.
Warhammer 40,000 lore, you'll know that generally speaking, the Tyranid invasions have all come from the
The sun sets in the west and the
east, and
Tyranid
they've
rise in the
picked
east.
off McCrag and the
Paint them like
it was-
bananas.
It was always told
Excellent.
as the beginning of this tendrils with the High Fleet in theory behind it. that was
Yes.
coming
So
in.
what we've got now with the 4th Tyrannic War is the forces of the Leviathan. The Imperium has been fighting them for quite a long time.
High Fleet
they thought they
Hellstorm,
kind
they'll
of
have
got
coffee
their measure,
mug
right? They
on the
fought them at,
bases.
at
broke
Baal.
their fleets at Bales.
Yeah, they thought they might have seen the
I like how
the
Nick
peak
says
of
something
Leviathan,
striking, and everyone's like
halted, and that's
potassium,
absolutely
luminous
not
pink,
true. What we're seeing now is
coffee
from the other
flavoured.
side of the galaxy, this enormous
Tartan, there we
great
go.
tendril, this sweeping mass of Tyranids, the largest invasion we've seen yet, swooping in from the other side.
And it's
So-
still part of Leviathan.
Yeah, so Leviathan is kind of crushing both sides of the galaxy. The galaxy is literally in the jaws of High Fleet Leviathan.
This, to
and it's
me,
giving like a sense of the absolute scale and cosmic horror of
High
the
Fleet
Tyranids.
Bloodraven, just all over
Everybody
weapons.
knew was huge, but this is
How the
like,
fuck is that
they
east
thought
and
it was
west
just
in
coming from
space,
one direction,
literally?
and actually the galaxy is completely surrounded.
Goated comment. How there is there east and west in space? Yeah, how does that work? Anyone know? your North Pole. Do you just have to reference Terra the entire time? I don't know.
it's
coming
a
from all
huge
sides.
and stunning change for me in terms of reflecting sort of the scope, scale, alien nature, and sort of almost the terminal threat that Tyranid
High Fleet
represents.
Sandstorm,
It's not
hell yeah.
unknowable. Who knows how much more it is? They're so large that the entire galaxy is now surrounded
Absolutely,
effectively.
yeah. So just another apocalypse to add to the growing list for the Imperium.
Well, should we talk a little bit about the rules?
Let's talk rules, yeah.
Eddie. It's one of those things we're
Simplified,
not
not
sure.
simple.
Anyone would wonder how much would we
Listen.
talk about the rules?
This is the exact same picture that they used when they announced the last edition, and they had this blurry. Just so I let you know that.
A reveal right up with the cinematic, but we'll do that. We'll talk a little bit about what does new 40K bring from an actual playing of the game perspective.
Let me know if the
First one
volume's
is we
okay,
mentioned
guys.
that the game has been streamlined, it's been simplified. The game is not simple. Let's remember this is still Warhammer 40,000. It's still the game that we all sort of know and love, and it has all of the hallmarks of Warhammer 40,000 that our community has grown up around. Enjoying recreating battles on the battlefield. But from a simplification perspective, there's been an enormous amount of work done to make the game less dense, to make redundancy and minor rules spread across
That's it. No more woods. Less dense.
numerous publications, less complicated, and to streamline everything into sort of, and we'll talk about it a little bit as we go through a couple of these next elements of the game. A good example is instead of having, let me think of it, if you were to run a Space Marine detachment today, Space Marines Army, you might have a book that has several pages of stratagems, you have several pages of psychic powers, you have warlord traits, you
I
have
do feel like they're just getting rid of most of the stratagems. It's going to be closer to World Eaters, where it's going to be like, everyone's just going to have like 6 each, and that's it. Very sad.
relics, you have all these rules and layers of rules. And then if
It's
you want
just
them
quite
to
a
be,
lot to learn,
it's
right?
a lot. And then
Before
if you want to
bring it
make
to the
them
table.
Ultramarines and add that on top, then you've got more pages of rules and stratagems and so on and so forth. What we didn't want to do is get rid of the value of things like stratagems and enhancements to your warlord or to some of your key character units. But they've been simplified down so that when you're playing, you'll have one full page spread open. And on that one full page spread, you'll have a series of stratagems, about 6 on average per army, as well as a series of upgrades.
Got it. Told you. 6 stratagems each. It's going to be better to actually like for the pro of it, one positive of everyone just having like 6 stratagems, it's going to be a lot easier for you to know what your opponent can do. Because that's the problem. I think that's the problem at the minute is like you can learn the stratagems for your army, but remembering everyone else's is a problem. Literally what you said, called it. I know. Trying to learn everyone else's stratagems is a bit of an issue because there's so much that they have access to that you won't have sat and broke down. Like I always like recommend writing a cheat sheet, right? You write your list, you think about stratagems that you have available, write your list, and then write down the stratagems you can actually use. And it's always like, it's about 10 usually. There's about 10 stratagems your army can actually use in a game. But when you're playing against an opponent, they have access to 20, 30, 40, whatever. And you might not know which ones they can actually use. You might go, oh yeah, I'm playing Astra Militarum. I know they have a stratagem where a unit can move after it's shot. Now that unit, the only unit can use that is a Sentinel, like the Armored Sentinel or whatever. So I'm just thinking about our game that we had the other day. But you know they have that, but you don't know what units can use it without asking, you know? So you kind of got to like keep refreshing yourself on all these other armies to see what they can do so you can play against them. Learning your own army is fine. The problem is when there's too many stratagems for your opponent has access to try and remember. Whereas if they have a few, it's going to be a lot easier to remember. Now, the downside is I love stratagems. I love the mechanic. I think it's really, really fun. I think it's got a lot of depth to it. So I hope they don't simplify it too much, you know? Big boomer energy, but I really like the game at the minute. I think the game 9th edition, the end of 9th edition, is the best it's ever been. It's really, really fun. It's really enjoyable. There's a lot going on. A lot of armies can compete. There's a couple of obviously problematic armies, but I think the game at the minute is really, really nice. So, they said by death, thank you very much for the 12 months, man. I really appreciate it. Thanks for subscribing for 12 months. That's really cool, man. Wait, God, have strats. I know.
To your warlord, to your relics, and a sub-faction rule, effectively, to whatever your army may be. And if you choose to play a different grouping, let's say you go from Ultramarines to Ultramarines First Company, instead of adding a whole nother book to the whole experience, you'll take that one-page spread of rules and replace it with a different one, so that you're always working with a really tight, streamlined set of rules, but still the same depth that you have today within the army, different stratagems, different abilities. And then a number of different stratagems, rules, and other things have been taken and put back onto the datasheet to really bring the unit
put back on the datasheet. So they implied they removed them from the datasheet to force stratagems down your throat.
It's to the forefront of the game as an experience again. So as opposed to putting down your units and then playing a lot of the game, as it were, from the front of the book, there's a greater emphasis for many of those rules moving into the datasheets and moving into the overall game experience. We also have key changes to phases. They've been streamlined. We have the morale phase has been moved into the command phase and rejiggered entirely with something called Battle Shock, which we may talk about a little bit more here.
Battle Shock? That's Age of Sigmar!
The psychic phase has been broken down into the actual data sheets of the rules and abilities.
So it's not a psychic phase
there
anymore.
Isn't an actual psychic phase
change
anymore in the game. Instead, psychic abilities are baked into the units themselves. They still work in some ways evocative of how psychic powers work today, but it's not an entire phase that applies in very different ways to different armies.
So, for example,
just like Age of Sigmar or Heresy. Closer to Heresy, that one. Interesting.
For example, a librarian might have Smite, which would be a ranged shooting attack with a psychic ability.
Yes, with reflections of things like the hazardous nature of using it at a very high level, with the potential to inflict mortal wounds and other things, but still focused as basically a shooting attack. Whereas, some of the psychic powers that might buff a unit or debuff a unit are more baked into an ability within the datasheet as opposed to, an entire phase oriented around the functionality. And it better reflects the sort of strengths and weaknesses of different psychers. Someone like a Primaris psyker within the Astra Militarum might not be as reliable getting off their abilities as Magnus the Red, who's probably not going to fail them in your typical
so Magnus the Red has a ranged psychic attack, but it's like a really good ranged psychic attack. Right?
Absolutely, and
as well as a range of other psychic abilities
as well, as opposed to just a generic psychic ability that every other psyker has.
I like that. That's quite fun. Again, it makes the units feel more like a unit rather than everyone having access to the same thing. Just like Heresy. Hey guys, how you doing? It's just like Heresy. Like Heresy has tables still, but if it's like per datasheet, they have their own powers and they all have a version of Smite, but some more powerful than others. I like that.
Yeah, you mentioned a little bit about morale and battle shock there. I think obviously we'll dive into all of these rules in a lot more detail on the Warhammer community site over the coming weeks and months. But I think one of the things that I really like about the new edition, the changes, is that you don't lose models in morale anymore. You don't have
no, you
don't fail a morale tech and actually just take
morale
units off. It just changes the way that unit interacts with the game.
It does. It works much more like a unit that's been broken up and banged up within a very fast-paced, sort of almost modern firefight, and that those units might not interact as well with rules and with grabbing objectives and other things as they normally would.
So what they're doing is adding pinned. If you fail a battle shot test, you add pinned, just like Heresy, where you shoot and only hit on 6s and you can't move.
Additionally, it has much more relevance throughout the game, whereas today you might, kill off most of the models in a unit. They barely pass the morale test. A couple models survive, and they go hide in a corner on an objective all game, and they're basically fine from then on out, even though most of their units been devastated. Battle Shock will have less of an impact on models disappearing from the board and more of an impact on testing their metals.
How reliable is that unit now in the battlefield, basically?
And once a unit has been damaged to a certain degree, it may become less reliable on a regular basis each turn, depending upon how they hold themselves together in the face of the ongoing attrition of battlefield.
Should we talk about stratagems a little bit?
There's definitely fewer stratagems to remember. There's many more stratagems that are core stratagems that you'll commonly see in gameplay. Whereas whenever you play a faction, you basically always have 6 stratagems available.
Yeah.
And if you decide to play a different variation of that faction, you'll take those 6 stratagems away and replace them with 6 new ones that are for that variation, i.e. Ultramarines versus Imperial Fists or something similar to that effect.
So you have a very common, a list of common stratagems that everyone can use, and that's a little bit bigger than it is now. And then you have a much smaller list of ones that are specific to the faction.
Yep, and they're much...
Yeah, there you go. So, yeah, it's going to be a lot easier to play against armies, but because there's sounds like every army is going to have 6 completely different ones. There's probably going to be some crossover, but trying to remember them all is probably going to feel a little bit easy. You'll have a good idea, like, oh yeah, we're playing against Necrons, playing against Miniac or whatever. Oh yeah, they've got that stratagem, and then it's like, oh, playing against Sortek. Oh yeah, they've got this other stratagem. But everyone having the access to the same core ones is just how Age of Sigmar is, baby. It's just like Age of Sigmar. Redeploy, all-out attack, all-out defense, coming to 40k. Let's go. It's the same game. It's the same game, but one's got guns. It's just the same. Okay, I'll shut up.
It's more focused on really impactful stratagems you'll want to use on a regular basis. There's also fewer command points in the game by a significant margin, and so there's much more of a focus on using the right stratagem at the right time, rather than dumping all of your command points on turn 1 into a series of combos that makes it feel like you're playing against, again, the front of the book as opposed to the armies and the data sheets that are on the tabletop. Also, let's be very clear. We've re-indexed the game. All of the index rules are free, and are free on day 1, as are all...
I have so many books. I want to die.
all of the core rules to play the game.
So that means on the first day of the new edition, if I've got an Orc army, which I do, I can get my core rules, I can get all my data sheets for my Orcs, and I can play a game with that army on the first day of the
and
new
all
edition.
your army rules as well. Now, there's nothing in particular that's hidden. All of them are free and available on day 1 to play with, and the points are going digital and free as well on day 1.
Nice.
Digital.
So
digital. App-based. Guys, you finally got what you wanted. They've got rid of stratagems, and now everything's going to be on my fucking phone, and I'm going to see spoilers for everything. God damn.
Also, the ability to purchase indexes, because if you want to have them, you can have actual physical datasheet cards.
So those are a little bit like the War Scroll cards in Warhammer Age of Sigmar.
Like Age of Sigmar.
Just like Age of
All
Sigmar.
of those are kind of compacted onto a single card.
Yep, and you no longer
like
necessarily have
Sigmar.
to bring all of them with you if your army only uses 10 data sheets instead of the 180 you have in Space Marine or however many it is these days. You only need to bring those data sheets with you instead of lugging the whole book, because again, you just have that one open page or a couple of data cards of your actual army rules and stratagems, and then your individual data sheets.
That was a common thing, wasn't it? That we were being told from the community was like, they like the Warhammer 40,000 as a game, but there's a lot of rules.
That's a different data sheet. That doesn't have the Ripper Swarms on. Like the other one did. I'm taking a break from anything just to see what the reaction to the different data sheet is. Yeah, I'm still a bit confused. There's obviously 2 different types of units, right? And that's like a different ability. The other unit doesn't have that ability
to carry around, right? There's rules bloat in terms of the things you have to remember, but also the amount of books that you need to take with you when you play a game. And you've got less things to remember, less things to know about your opponent's army, but the variety of it in terms of like the choices you have.
And army building itself, as we just saw back there, I don't know if we'll go back to that one image we had just before this one. Army building itself has simplified, and it's, when we say it's simplified, it is a much more accessible thing to get into. And we've done a lot of interesting things with the rules to make it more innovative and more immersive to build a diverse army as opposed to just taking
Just
only
shooting
the
a
best
melee
units,
unit. That's true,
or
Red
on
Kai.
paper the
Well
best
done,
units.
mate.
And
Well
the way
done.
it's been simplified is you take a character, your warlord.
Wait, no.
Take up to 3 of any data sheet.
Wait, no. That's a Hormagon. That's wrong.
Or
Ignore
up
me.
to 6 of any basically troop or dedicated transport data sheet. And that's it. Army as opposed to just taking only the best units, or on paper the best units. And the way it's been simplified is you take a character, your warlord, you take up to 3 of any data sheet, or up to 6 of any basically troop or dedicated transport data sheet. And that's it. And so you need to have a warlord, and then you take up to 3 of most units. Additionally, there's been a great deal of work in putting things like what used to be...
That's very small. A warlord up to 3 units of any type, and then troops. That's really small. That's a really small game. No wonder it's fast.
Be individual unit stratagems and other abilities into the datasheet itself. And there's a variety of rules.
Bear in mind, I have what? 6 heavy supports, 4 elites, and 2 troops. That's why the game's fast. It's because there's fucking nothing on the table. Right, they're going to be they need an even smaller board. Even smaller board, gang. That is tiny. Tiny compared. That is tiny.
Tailored to work with this type of army building. A good example being that a Space Marine captain might have a really powerful ability, but only one model per turn can use that ability, and so taking a second or third one isn't necessarily a value add. And there's many different units that, instead of there being a stratagem where after your unit
it's just
shoots and
rule of 3,
targets a
not
unit,
3
now your
units
other units
total.
get a benefit against it.
Oh. The article says you can take loads of units, but only 3 of any one data sheet. Oh, okay, so just rule of 3. Oh, that's very different to what he just said. He said a commander up to 3 units and then troops. That's very different to what he's just said. Very, very different.
There might be a key unit that provides that buffer benefit to your army. And so working in a combined arms way and leveraging different data sheets into your army in an innovative way is oftentimes, by design, much more impactful and useful and interesting than simply taking 3 of one thing and 3 of the other. So army building has been simplified, but the depth and interest in actually building a diverse force has been a major focus for how the data sheets have been built and how the army rules have been designed.
So every unit basically has got their thing. Like they've got the thing that they bring to your army. So
absolutely,
in a way that at the moment you...
There's no elites, heavy support, etc. They don't have a battlefield role. I'm actually equally straightforward. Pick a faction, a warlord trait, and the units you like. Just no more 3 of any type, and then stay within your points limit. Okay, so just get rid of detachments, basically. They're just getting rid of detachments. Everyone's running the same one now anyway. Just no detachments at all. Okay. I mean, that's fine. That's fine because at the minute, you basically don't have any detachment anyway. Arcs of Omen is like, choose the type of detachment you are, then fill that up, and it's just like, it doesn't really matter. There's hardly any limitation. The only limitation is you can only have 6 of the one you really want. Which isn't a really limitation, you know? But yeah, this just sounds like they're getting rid of detachment. And it's just like, 1 HQ, take whatever you like.
You might be relying on stratagems or something to do a particular niche or to fill a particular need. A lot of the time, the unit and the data sheet will allow you to do that. So that's why you take that particular unit.
Much greater focus on your army doing the work of being an army as opposed to how can I take the most optimal units and then use my stratagems or the sort of front of my book to do all of the work.
Yeah, so I think we had an example data sheet.
I really don't understand this front of book thing he's trying to say. Is it to say like, oh, I'm playing against the front of a book? Does that mean because my faction's better than yours? I don't understand the whole, oh, I'm just going to use all my stratagems front of book. I don't understand what that means. Am I being dumb? Like, listen to what he just said.
Stratagems or something to do a particular niche or to fill a particular need. A lot of the time, the unit and the data sheet will allow you to do that. So that's why you take that particular unit.
Much greater focus on your army doing the work of being an army as opposed to how can I take the most optimal units and then use my stratagems or the sort of front of my book to do all of the work.
Yeah, so
I don't understand what that means. It means you're playing against someone's boost and strat spend before the game. It means all the sub-faction rule strats, warlord traits are all before the date sheets at the front of the book. Okay. Yeah, I guess. That's just a really weird way to phrase it. Are you trying to say, rather than playing against all of the upgrades they've bought before the game, you're playing against a data sheet? Front of the book, it's not the units, it's the faction rule strats and relics at the front of the book. Interesting, okay. Because at the moment you have to flick through the whole book and only really look at the data sheets for stats, whereas now you'll need the data sheets more and the army rules less. That makes sense. I don't know. It felt like that's just a really weird way to phrase it. It means Dirty Iron Hand simps can't just rely on their faction rules. No! I mean, aren't you mainly playing against your strats currently? No, I don't think so. Maybe playtested books only have the rules for those bit at the front, maybe.
I think we had an example data sheet that might be worth talking through some of the things, because it looks quite a lot different from the data sheets we have at the moment.
Data sheets are heavily different, and with the decision to index, there's also the opportunity to revamp the way data.
I like the brackets. I like the brackets there. So it says assault pistol twin linked. It's an American. It's definitely an Americanism. Yeah. It just doesn't make sense.
Issue looks and works and is designed.
Because for like me, a competitive player who plays 40k all the time, I didn't understand what he meant. So for a more casual player, are they going to know what he means? You know? Is that what it is? You know what I mean? Like, I didn't understand what he was trying to say with like playing against front of book. Are you talking about the cover? Are you talking about the rules that start before the data sheets? What? I don't know. I don't know what you mean. Are you saying, oh, I win because I've got a better cover than you? Because obviously my Dark Angels cover is better than your Thousand Suns cover because my win rate's higher? The casual player probably isn't watching this stream at 4 a.m. Yeah, but don't forget, this was in America time. It was like, what, 10, 11? Like, don't forget, like, obviously, like, UK wasn't up, but I don't know.
Here you can see the new termagants, which is quite cool. They have an ability that focuses on how the unit behaves and is very thematically tied to them.
I guess one of the things before we get too into it is that the data sheet does look quite different, but actually the effect in terms of what it does in the game is not a million miles away from the way that Warhammer 40,000 works today. So
no, it's going to seem very familiar. It's not a move to something like Age of Sigmar where every unit hits or wounds on a fixed number or something like that. Instead, it's still very similar to what you...
So all those rumors about heavy armor and not rolling to wound, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up, idiots. You're wrong. You're just wrong again. Look at you. Look at you. Believe in everything you read on the internet. Oh, this is random PDF says you can blow up the terrain and you can fucking... Yeah, everyone's got heavy armor or light armor. I don't see shit. Shut up. You're wrong. Stop believing PDFs. I'm going to sit here and write a PDF. New 11th edition rules. The terrain can be exploded and Terminators can wound everything on a 1-up. And people believe it. As long as I put it on some weird website on Imgur and I post it to Reddit.
You'll remember or recognize from Warhammer 40,000 today. But the ranged weapons and melee weapons and things like that have been moved into their own profile. You'll notice that attacks and ballistic skill and weapon skill and strength.
Yeah, they still exist. They're just attached to the weapon rather than about the fighter.
That allows us to do a wide variety of things with the way that the units are designed, such as something like chainswords or a Space Marine Captain's Power Fist versus a Space Marine Sergeant's Power Fist. Those things can all be somewhat different, and they can reflect the way the individual models work rather than being...
Sorry, they already are different. A commissar with a power fist is usually strength 6, and then a space marine strength 8, and you could do what you want. This doesn't change. This new data sheet doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean, oh yeah, suddenly we can make power fists or chainsaws work in a different way. They already do that. They have like chainswords for space marines are already strength 4 with AP, and the normal ones aren't, and they can just write it differently. But that's fine.
Being hard tied to the individual model's attacks or strength characteristics.
So we've got a few questions in the chat about...
BS being in the weapons is a good change. Makes sense. It's probably harder to fire a multi-melter than a bolt pistol. That's a good point now. That's a really good point. Yeah, you can make heavy weapons like actually hit worse rather than like having a movement penalty, etc.
OC? Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Objective control. So OC effectively establishes the value that each model in a unit has if it is within range of an objective marker. So a unit of 10, now things like objective secured as a rule, those are gone. Instead, it's reflected with the individual units. Each model may have a different objective control characteristic. So each termagant is worth effectively 2 points if it's within range of an objective, Whereas something that may be bigger or more robust but isn't really focused on grabbing objectives may only have an OC value of 1.
But it also means things like knights, which
Have a
was
much higher OC
particularly
value.
struggled with objective control,
Yep.
can actually now count as lots of the OC could be quite high, and they could, one grot doesn't beat one knight sort of thing.
It's definitely an improvement in the way we design models for function, because again, when you look at things like what does optimal mean, as some of the folks who play the game at some levels focus on, instead you can go, well, this unit may not have the same damage output as another unit, but it's much, much better at grabbing objectives, which still remain a very key
I
part
imagine
of how the game is
Termagants are going to
played.
be relatively cheap, right? So that's probably one of the
I
cheapest...
don't think they're going to cost the same as a Terminator. We can put it that
but
way.
that's one of the most efficient ways to fill the board with objective control.
Absolutely, which is exactly what Termagants tend to do. And we've done some things to make the units actually reflected in...
Original OC, don't steal, will copyright GW probably. Original character. Original character 2.
their datasheet abilities in a very interesting
We're all going to
way.
be anime characters in the chat. That's what we are. We got Kira, we got Anime Man. We're all going to be joining you with our OCs,
That reflects how their actual lore works. There's a whole bunch of work done to look at their lore, at their IP, and make sure that the abilities actually reflected that. In the case of the scuttling Termagants that are very sneaky, can tend to be difficult to pin down. When you get within 9 inches of a unit, the unit gets to move in a reaction.
So that's very reactive compared to the current edition.
And there's a ton of addition of
You know what? Age of Sigmar has that. It's called Redeploy.
reactive abilities and reactive stratagems and reactive datasheet abilities into the game, so that you're playing a lot more of an interesting game with your opponent during their turn.
So does
there's less
Heresy.
phases. And there is a greater investment in abilities and stratagems, things that work during your opponent's turns, so that the game itself is a much more dynamic experience when you play.
So they're adding reactions in terms of stratagems, which the whole point of stratagems were to be reactions, and then they just went, you know what, we'll just make all the guns way better by adding a stratagem. Where it was always supposed to be a reaction-based thing. So they've actually gone, oh, actually, yeah, we haven't done that. We should probably make it a reaction thing. So I can interact with my opponent during their turn and vice versa. Crazy. Looks like it's going to be expensive, so it sure is.
Yeah. We got a couple of people noticing slight differences in the stats. So I think one of the things worth saying is that because this is a re-indexing of the game, we've also had the opportunity to look at the things like durability and strength and how common AP is across the entire game.
There are two major changes that are worth focusing on. That one, in general, lethality is down. That doesn't mean that it's down to a degree that might remind someone of editions many moons ago.
You still don't want to stand out in the open in front of a
You're probably going to get shot in the
Yeah.
open if you do stand in the open. But the game is going to be a little bit less lethal than it is today. Cover is going to work a little bit differently. We're going to talk about
AP
all
is
of
a
this
little
stuff
bit
over
rarer.
time. AP is a little bit lower on average. And then there's also a stratification of strength and toughness when it comes to larger monsters and vehicles. Today is very much the case where you tend to see very few things that are different from, like, for instance, toughness 7.
Yeah, you cap
And
out
so
at about 8, don't you? It's
you do
very, very
7 or
rare
8.
to have anything that's higher than 8.
So-
Eddie, shut up. Let the man talk.
If your army has a large amount of access to strength 8 weaponry, strength 7 weaponry, it really is able to wound almost anything in the game pretty reliably, and that's no longer going to be the case. I'm not going to spoil anything for you, Eddie, but there definitely is a much, much higher level of toughness.
Well, there's vehicles that have toughness higher than 10.
Or there's vehicles that have toughness higher than 11.
Well, there you go.
And what that does is it creates a much better stratification of the game, so that having dedicated role units to deal with different threats is much, much more...
Who needs Armor of Contempt when your toughness 12? Who needs Armor of Contempt when your toughness 12?
more of a real component, as opposed to, gosh, I sure have a lot of strength 8 in this army. I guess I wound everything on 3s or better. And so that kind of brings back... not.
They're going back to toughest 14 Land Raiders. Imagine. Mikey realizing all the trainings that has now is worthless. That's my only concern, honestly. That's my real concern.
Quite the same as armor values back in the day, where certain things couldn't hurt anything, but a much more robust stratification.
Yeah,
of the
so
different
you
types of
couldn't, for
units.
example, take, I'm just going to invest heavily in plasma, and that's going to solve the game for me because I've got all the 7 and 8 strength I need.
Yep, because while toughness went up on many units, in many cases, strength did not go up on many weapons. So a plasma gun has not changed materially in its strength. Its AP might have even changed downward, whereas the units that used to be wounded on 3s by a supercharged plasma gun now may only be wounded on a 5 by them.
Wow, that could be big.
Substantial changes involved there, and of course the data sheets, you're going to see many more of them in the time to come. Eddie, I know we won't talk too much about it so that you can talk all about it.
Yeah, so we will cover loads and loads of the rules over on the community site in the coming weeks.
It's pretty wild that they're releasing so much stuff about 10th edition now when they have Warhammer Fest next month. Obviously, that's going to be the full reveal of the box set. That's like obvious, but like they talk about a lot of the rules here, which is quite interesting. I imagine that Melters will be something like +5 strength in half range, maybe. Maybe.
weeks and months. A couple of other things that are worth talking about. Boarding actions and boarding patrols from the latest Arcs of Omen books. They are compatible with the new edition of Warhammer 40,000. So if you've been...
Is it early next month? Yeah, it's end of April, mate. It's like a month's time.
Collecting yourself a little 500-point combat patrols of infantry to go diving into Space Hulks, they will absolutely still be able to do that in the new edition.
Yep.
So you can take all those recently constructed armies with you as we go. So that'll be
And
really...
all of the boarding patrol rules that are in the Arcs of Omen books are fully compatible. They were designed to be that way so that if you've been investing in those books and the amazing story they've told and the rules themselves, none of those are invalidated by the release of the new edition. They haven't
Except for your
taken away. It's
codexes.
not a short-term use. They'll be
The
using it
codexes
well
are out of
into-
date, but everything else is in.
which is really cool. And then there is another interesting way to play Warhammer 40,000. So Combat Patrol is a new thing in Warhammer 40,000, a brand new way to play the game. And the way that this works is different from the way Combat Patrol works today. The way it works is that you pitch Combat Patrols against each other. So the way you choose your army is you pick up any of the Combat Patrol boxes that we make, and that is your force. You can build...
That's just genius. I'm surprised they've not done this earlier. The fact that they've got all of these box sets called Combat Patrol, and then they just go, yeah, Combat Patrol's 500 points, and then none of them are 500 points. This is good. This is a good way to do it. This is a really, really good way to do it. Just be like, I've got my box, you've got your box, let's have a game. Because that's like, it's like starter set 2, right? You've got the starter set, which is like a 2-player box set, Tyranids, Space Marines with Terminators and Termicots or whatever. All the Termies in there. That's a great way to start the game, but like for people who don't want to start that way or want to just expand with a new army, you go, I'll buy this box, you buy that box, we'll have a game. I mean, that's really good. I mean, that's a really good way to do it. I'm surprised they've not done it already because like they obviously had Combat Patrol as 500-point game. These are called Combat Patrols, not always 500 points, so they're not always equal. And then you have boarding actions, which is 500 points, but in whatever, I don't know.
Build it however you want out of that box, and it is balanced and pitched against other Combat Patrols in a similar way that you might place a...
Is it this Just Crusade? Will their rules get in the way of the codex again? They haven't mentioned new codexes. That's one thing they haven't mentioned. I imagine they'd be dumb not to, because they've conditioned us all to buy new books. But they haven't mentioned codexes. They've only mentioned indexing. What if they keep all the rules free? Don't know. We'll see. I'm sure there'll be a new one, but
Something like Kill Team, where you have a preset list of units. The rules for Combat Patrol are a little bit different from Warhammer 40,000, so maybe slightly simpler in places. There might be slightly less access to some of the choice, but fundamentally, you are playing Warhammer 40,000 at a very accessible level. And it's really cool for a couple of reasons. One of them is that if you want to start a new army, it gives you a very, very accessible way to try them out, basically. So you don't need to put yourself together 2,000 points worth of models before you could...
This could be a cool little battle report series that I do, just combat patrols against each other. I'm sure everyone else will do the same thing, but that would be fun.
Start rolling dice and have a satisfying game. You can play Combat Patrol and have a really good, fun game balanced against lots of other armies. And the other thing is that if you like to dip your toe into lots of different forces, so you're a kind of hobby butterfly, I suppose, and you're like, oh, I like playing with Chaos, but I also like my Orcs, and I quite like those new Eldar models that came out, and I like a bit of this, then you can jump between lots of armies, again, without needing to necessarily collect full forces with Combat Patrol.
Yeah, I think nuance and context are everything for me on this one, too, because when we even talk about the differences between Combat Patrol and sort of the full-size 40k game, they're very, very minor. So architecturally, it is the exact same game. And what you might see as a change is because Combat Patrol is meant to be both streamlined and easy to play and also accessible to newer players, you might have a unit that has 2 datasheet abilities.
A wild midwinter Hellstorm,
and they are relatively simple.
Well, he's done start collecting deathmatch. Combat Patrol tournament is very different.
Combat Patrol.
Heat
when it
Force
moves up
10,
to the full size
probably.
40k, that same datasheet is going to have basically the same abilities, but maybe a little bit more robust or more broad sweeping for the full-size game.
There you go. So that's why there's 2 data sheets. One might be Combat Patrol, and the other one is probably like for 40k. It's very similar, but slightly different. I imagine the one they've shown off with the Termagants and the Ripper Swarms is Combat Patrol to keep it simple.
It's not going to be completely different abilities, and so Combat Patrol is going to very easily navigate into full-size 40k, but it's built and being actively balanced pretty aggressively every day by the studio so that whatever Combat Patrol you want, and the rules for it are free as well, and will evergreen be free,
Combat Patrol, what Kill 2
you
was
buy
meant
that
to be,
Combat Patrol,
literally.
it is built to be played against all of the other Combat Patrols, the way it is out of the box.
With there's so many ways to play 40k smaller, I don't understand where Kill Team sits anymore, you know? It doesn't make any sense.
It's a really, really nice new way of playing 40k. We've got one question that's popping up a lot in the chat I just wanted to answer is there's some questions there about Forge World rules. Forge World models for Warhammer 40,000 will also get free data sheets that you can use in the new edition. So if you've got your...
Didn't say day one.
Gargantuan Squiggoth, it's a great kit. Why would you not, right?
Of course Eddie brings up the Gargantuan Squiggoth. It's one of the things we talk about all the time.
You can still use it.
It's so all Forge World rules will be taken care of. They'll be free, of course, just like all the index rules are on day one. It's
okay,
we have
they did say day one. I'll let them off.
a new app.
Yep.
It works 100%, which is one of the important things we're really excited about, is a fully functioning army builder. All of the rules available in it, again, all of the points free and digital on day one.
Yep.
And so we're fairly excited about all of these new things that are coming to fore that should make the game more accessible and more easily gotten into than ever before. If you play today, you will be able to play fully with no caveats or asterisks on day one of the new edition.
One of the questions that's popped up quite a lot I just wanted to address is Crusade. So Crusade is absolutely...
So a brand new app that actually works. Now, they said this last time, released it 4 months late, and it didn't work. App day one bet. No cap. Say cap right now. Say cap right now. You can't promise that. No one believes you, Michael Brand. No one believes you. The app won't work day one. Why would we believe you? Look how you burnt us before. We were like, wow, an app with an army builder. Oh, it's fucking shit. Is it going to get updated? Yeah. Oh, it's still bad. It's still really bad. App day 2 or 3. 3 months from now. It works now. The game's been out 3 years, Magoo. 3 years. It's only just working, and it's been out for nearly 3 years. Fuck me. Okay. Right, so the app's gonna work. I love that. That's a promise. There's an app, and it works. So the bar is so far through the floor. They're releasing an app, and they have promised this time it's going to work. Fucking hell. Better late than never. Leave GW alone, literally. Bar is so far through the floor. The selling point of the new app is that it works. I'm glad I got onto this stream. No, yeah, it was a shite launch, but the app's all right now. The app's fine for checking rules.
Definitely still a part of Warhammer 40,000.
Very, very big part of it.
There will be some ways to, if you've been crusading for the past 3 years and you've had a good time, you've taken your troops through all sorts of battlefields to the distant corners of the galaxy, there will be some ways to port that army into the new edition, which is pretty cool. There will also be some brand new expansions for Crusade, so the new edition starts with the 4th Tyrannic War. That might give you a sense of where
some of
the first Crusade expansions might go. But if you enjoy Crusade, and lots of people do, there is still definitely ways to engage with that in the new edition.
It's fair to say that Crusade was one of the big hits of the previous edition, and I don't think it's going anywhere.
Was it, though? Was it a big hit? Yeah. I'm sure some people play it.
We're doubling down on all fronts, really, whether it's in our event scene with things like the Grand Narrative.
What have they been smoking? You get the copium being hopped in that room. Everyone played Crusade. Crusade is so fun. It's basically the biggest way to play 40k. It's a big something. Crusade, listen. The reason we put it in the middle of the books is because we knew everyone was using it. We only put it to the back of the book so it was easier to find. It was a big hit in the studio. Yeah, the 3 people who played it in the studio. Crusade was massive. You don't hear about it because no one publishes the results. Yeah, it was massive in that one room with that one guy playing it. Someone tells Joanne he's watching the stream at about a 4-hour delay.
Play as we start to connect more of a narrative element to that, all sort of globally, or whether it's, of course, in the revitalization and release of effectively Crusade 2.0. But we don't want to spoil everything on just the first preview. We'll give Eddie and his team all the time in the world to share all this excitement over the coming weeks to come.
Yeah, so new edition of Warhammer 40,000 will be coming in summer. We have a few weeks and months yet before we get there. So keep checking out warhammercommunity.com. You can sign up to a newsletter.
If it comes out on the 24th and 25th of June, I'm going to be so pissed off. I'm running a tournament that day. Probably the last 9th edition tournament ever.
To share the excitement with us, we've actually done it twice now, once live for Adepticon and once live for all of you. It's been a pleasure. Eddie, thanks for having me.
Did you have a favorite? Obviously.
Why did they do it twice? Why didn't they just stream the reveal of Adepticon? Why did they do it twice? They did it once and then did it again? Why didn't they just stream whilst they were presenting to GW, man? So backwards. No wonder it was at 3 a.m. They did a full 2-hour reveal, then did it again. I bet they're shattered. Why didn't they just fucking... Why didn't they just... This? Why isn't this with the audience?
The new Warhammer 40,000 is pretty cool. But did you have like a favorite thing in the other previews we had?
I was a big fan of the Lion.
It's pretty cool.
It's always cool to see when a primer comes up. But honestly, I'm going to tell you that the Seraphon, yep. I mean, they scratch an itch for me that connects to everything from, classic movies of yore to owning every single dinosaur book growing up. And it's one of the armies that I'm actually...
Probably because they'll have shit audio and the crowd would shout too much to talk over. Yeah, but they got casting mics on. They'd be fine. Would you want to hear a load of Americans whooping while they announce them? I mean, that'd be cool. It'd be so much less... Eddie might have energy,
Actively collecting and painting.
But they could have streamed it at like 2 hours earlier at 1 a.m. I would have stayed up for it. I'd have been so hype. And I'm watching it nearly 12 hours later. There are some big changes to gameplay which have been completely overhauled for this edition. We started with what fans are telling us about the game you play. They said all the people complaining don't play the game. That's the problem. That's the problem. It's a fun game. There are parts that are overcomplicated and the learning curve for new players is pretty steep. In particular, many felt there were too many stratagems and too much complexity in army selection. No, that's the best part. That's literally the best part of the game. That's literally the best. Oh, I'm such a fucking gatekeeper, but that is the best part of the game, honestly. The best part is the army selection. The fact that you have so much customization during army selection is the best part of the game. But the problem is with that is they make one army or one sub-faction so good and then make the other ones really shit. That's the problem. It's not that it's too complex, it's that you don't know how to balance your own game. This is still rich, deep war game that you know and love. We just doubled down on the best bits. So instead of a huge draft of faction stratagems, you'll have access to a handful of the best ones. And there's also a few new universal stratagems anyone can use. It allows you to be reactive in your opponent's turn. These improvements like this everywhere in turn structure, army selection, morale, terrain. No, don't change terrain, please. Please don't change terrain. Please, for the love of God. I've literally got a box here. I've literally got a box behind me. This box, right, is not even 2 tables worth and took me 5 days to print. Please, for the love of God, don't change terrain. Just make me print it all again in like 3 months. Please, for the love of God, do not do that. Please, for the love of God, Games Workshop, don't kill terrain. Oh no, I'm just gonna die. I just want to kill myself. Why did I choose to expand this year, not last year? Oh no. What does it mean for my army mechanics? What does it mean for terrain? Okay. GW about to terrain on your parade. No. Maybe if you bought the terrain, they wouldn't. Listen, mate, I can't afford. No tournament organizer can afford to buy real terrain. No tournament organizer can afford to buy real terrain. You know, a Games Workshop table, right, with official terrain that Games Workshop at Warhammer World don't even have on every table is close to £400 retail. that would take me, not including the price of rent for a venue, that would take me 7 tournaments to pay off 1 table. 8 tournaments. 8 tournaments to cover the cost of 1 table. I'd have to run 8 tournaments to break even. Not including the cost of paint, of glue, of like tools. 400 quid each. That's 8 that basically the maths there is 8 people playing on that board to break even. You know? So that's 4 tournaments. 8 tournaments. The huge update has given us opportunity to look at the lethality and durability across the entire game and rebalance it at a stroke, something we could never do outside the launch of a new edition. This is example of what you mean. So this is the one they showed off on the stream, but then there's obviously the other one. Where's the other one? You also told us you didn't want to carry as many books with you to games. Listen, most armies have like 1. On the first day of the edition, the rules for every date sheet in 4K will be free to download. So they're not actually releasing indexes. They're just re-releasing everything digitally. Oh, or available to buy as convenient portable card decks. So I like the cards for like this for Age of Sigmar. These are really handy. These are really, really good. The whole experience is more convenient, compact, and efficient than ever before, and it delivers amazing games with less desperate leafing between pages looking for that one special rule. Army selection is equally straightforward. Pick a faction, a warlord, and the units you like, just no more than 3 of any one type, and then stay within your points limit. That's it. Yeah, so they've got rid of detachments, right? They've got rid of detachments. That's all they've done there. They talk about how Gort's on a bigger base. I mean, I'm not surprised. You no longer have a force organization chart or compromise on the army you really want. It's a simple, liberating system that opens the doors to all kinds of fun, thematic, or unusual armies. These big changes to rules and armies mean the current range of codexes are being retired. The rules in them don't work with the new edition, but remember that rules for all your units will be available for free. World Eater Player's absolutely sad right now. I've had a codex for 6 months and it's already out of date! In before the card deck rules are different to downloadable rules, creating mass confusion. Jason, yeah, 100%. It's all going to be a shit show, I imagine. Thematic equal broken, literally. Don't go throwing your credits in recycling yet, as well as months of gaming left in the current edition. Your credits remain a rich repository of lore and inspiration on your army, and one that won't be immediately replaced. That's the thing. Are they going to do new codexes? I don't know. Oh. Codex will return in time to replace the free rules. I should really read before speaking. I should read just a little bit. When they do, the complexity of the game won't increase thanks to the 1-in, 1-out ethos for army and sub-faction rules. Effectively, you'll only ever need your unit data sheets, the 2 pages of rules that govern the chosen army, available in your credits on cards or digitally, plus the core rules for whatever mission you're playing. Are troops limited to 3? No, they're limited to 6. They've said they're limited to 6. There's one section to note: the arcs of own books and boarding patrols will persist, so you can keep purging those space hulks into the new edition and beyond. Likewise, for those Eternal Crusaders who have built up the army of mighty hosts who narrative games will want to bring their Crusade army with them to a new edition, there are rules to let you do this too. So they're doing Pokebank for 40k. You know, you want to transfer your old Pokemon to the new Pokemon? Use Pokebank. That's what this is. Combat Patrol, brand new way to play, as well as continued support for Crusade and Match Play. The new edition will introduce a brand new way to play the game, Combat Patrol. This version is designed to be easy to collect and easy to play. Combat Patrol pitches small preset and balanced forces against each other with the armies made up of Combat Patrol boxes. This is just genius. They've finally got this many. They may as well do something with them. Units with the battle line keyword, just like Age of Sigmar. Oh, you can't see that. Just like Age of Sigmar. Units with the battle line keyword can be taken up to 6 times, so your dream of a full space marine battle company army can still be fulfilled. So you can take up to 6 troops of the same type, and then up to 3 of any other unit. So it's just rule of 3. There's no limit right now for spamming like troops, but obviously you have detachment limits. So what they've done is gone, you can only take 6 of the same thing if it's troops. But that's what battle line essentially means, and then everything else take the same, because obviously they've got rid of troops as a thing. So they've got rid of force organization. So you just take everything. You just take everything that you need. Anything you want, you just can't take 3 of the same unit, which is just rule of 3. They'll have to repackage the tyranny one. They haven't actually shown off the tyranny one in this picture. They showed off the Phobos one. But not. I don't think they have a normal Space Marine one, do they? This summer will be incredibly exciting time to be a Warhammer 40,000 fan. There's so much to say. From tomorrow, we'll be taking an in-depth look at all the major changes and faction rules exclusively here on Warhammer Community, as well as investigating the units in an absolutely stacked launch box. What are they going to announce at Warhammer Fest? Warhammer Fest will probably have playable demos. Yeah, but you'd expect the box set to get announced at Warhammer Fest, and then have demos? Wild. Bit good I didn't stay up, but at the same time, I think it's better to enjoy it and not live, so I can like break bits down and pause and actually talk about it. I think if I'd not done that, I wouldn't have been able to. My thumbnail came in clutch, though. Spoiler for Adepticon Reels. Announces live returning. Announces Temptation is still sleeping. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they talk about next, I guess. It's definitely interesting what they talk about next. Box set reveal at Warhammer Fest. Yeah, but they're announcing the stacked box set coming soon. I like the fact Terminators are back. They've been in all Dark Ages armies at the end of Knife. Yeah, they're just hoping all these Deathwing spammers are going to be like, oh yeah, we need 30 new ones now. We need 30 new ones. Warhammer Fest will probably be playable demos. Warhammer Fest will be a new Sangria Guard, potentially. Warhammer Fest will be Old World. They've said Old World isn't for years. Maybe Russ come back at Warhammer Fest. Imagine they've announced 3 Primarchs in 6 months. He's like, GW, what's wrong with your stock price? What a crazy time. What a crazy time to be a Warhammer fan. Are you guys excited? I'm a bit nervous about the whole terrain thing, but purely from a financial standpoint. Weird feeling looking at my 2 squads of gloriously painted Termies, and am I cheating on them for looking at younger, sexier models? Yes, you are. You're a disgusting human. Disgusting, clearly. They're magnetic. Oh, you can just pop the bunny ears off and just put them in the bucket. Does the new line mean Azrael loses 4+ invulnerable? Oh, fuck knows, mate. As Daddy Johnson takes his helmet back. I think he's got a new one. You know? He's got the hand-me-down. Old Terminator's dead to me. Friendship with Terminators is dead. I'm now friends with Terminators. That's actually a good meme. That's actually... Why are we not making this meme? I can actually post to Twitter now. We can actually post to Twitter. Ended. Meme maker. Why are we not making memes? Right, okay. Friendship ended with Terminators. Now I'm friends with Terminators. Terminators 2. Timey-wimey. Yeah, so like, yeah, I sort of said, like, terrain's an issue. Like Steve says, they can't change it too much. Because if they change it too much, they'll just piss everyone off again. They did fucking 3 years ago, they reduced the board size. That had pissed everyone enough. They pissed everyone off enough with that. They can't fucking come in and be like, oh yeah, we're just gonna like ruin all the terrain. I think what they mean by changing the terrain, I think they're gonna change the rules for it, because I know they don't like using perspex on their own terrain, because it's just a fucking band-aid for a band-aided rule set. The band-aid of the band-aid, you know. But yeah, I mean I just don't know what to think, because I think there's so much they could do with it. There's so much they could do with it for the better, but I'm pessimistic. I'm not really sure. I'm not really excited about it, to be honest. I'm not excited to see it. Because, like, if they change it too much, it's just going to be like, oh, for fuck's sake. But if they, like, I think the problem is like, when 8th edition came out and when the indexes came out, that was great, because 7th edition was fucking dog shit. 7th edition was shit. It was so bad, right? But 9th edition, whilst there's a lot of complaints on Twitter, there's a lot of angry pieces on Twitter, which is, you know, a lot of valid criticism. For the most part, it's a really good game. Like, 7th edition, no one said 7th edition was a good game. Everyone knew how to win. Everyone won. But no one said, you know what, 7th edition, what a fantastic game. I love formations. Everyone always said formations were really broken, knights were pretty dumb, Wraith Knights were silly, and Ynnari was crazy. But then they released 8th edition and everyone got an index. Everyone was really excited because it's like, oh, this really shit game. It's really interesting, you know? But then the problem is like they're indexing it all again. But does it need it? Maybe. I think just people just complain about stratagems because the problem is like, understandably, I'm a competitive player and this is my full-time. I talk about Warhammer as a full-time job. That's what fucking dumb. If they make it too simple, I'm going to be out of a job. But the problem is if you're a casual player, it's really hard to get back into, you know? It's really hard to get back into. You've been playing it for a long time, but you play it like once every couple of months, which is cool, which is fine. And trying to remember everything is an issue. Like me going back to other armies is an issue. Never mind going back to like a game system I've not played in 2 months. Or I'll be playing board games and I'll play 40k. Like everyone loves the models, everyone loves the lore, but like getting back into the game is like weird. It's tweets like this, right? Which I've just on Twitter, told you to give you content. Full Metal Turnip Max. I follow them. I think they're fun. I think they make some really cool models. But it's like, would you say 40k, the core rules have gotten better or worse over the years? I only played a bit of 6th and 8th, so I have no idea. And there's lots of tweets about this, like this sort of vein. I'm not going to call this person out. I think they're a great person. I think they're a great designer. But that sort of rhetoric, is like it's everywhere. Everyone comes in and say stuff like that. Like, God, the core rules are so annoying. They're so hard to get into. I haven't played since 6th, and it's like if you don't play the game, you're not going to know how to play straight away because it's a complex game. Is that a problem? Probably. Does that mean it's a bad game? No. That's probably like where I'm at. You know, I don't think a complex rule system makes a game bad. I think it makes it hard to get into, which I totally agree. But then there's people who have the similar like vein of thought, and they're like, the 40k rules are really bad, and competitive players are ruining it because they're making it complex because I haven't played in 5 months. So yeah, so like the game is hard to get into, but it is a really good game. But that's a problem because then it's really hard to get into, and that's probably what they want to address. But the problem is by addressing that, they make the game simpler, but they said it's still deep. But then it's like, but there's less army customization. There's less stratagems to play with. It sounds like there's going to be less going on. So, like, on one hand, by making it simpler, you're making it less deep. So it's I'm a bit like apprehensive. I think apprehensive of what they're going to do, because again, when they redid everything with indexes at the start of 8th edition, that was great because the game was shit. The game was dog shit, and everyone was just like, "Oh, thank God, they're doing something to fix it." But now it's like, well, the game's actually pretty good. Please don't ruin it. You know, I think we're in a different position. I think we're in a different position than we were before. Considering they have a chance, 1 or 2 strats will be 90% copy paste. Yeah, exactly. So they're going to make a lot of generic stuff, like a lot of stuff that every army has generic. Like transhuman will probably be a generic one, I imagine. So I'm a bit apprehensive about it, to be honest. But we'll see. It's fair to know what you like in the game you love and advocate for that while having perspective how more casual players feel. Well, I mean, I can't just sit here and say casual players are wrong. They obviously have that thought for a reason. You know? I can't just sit here and be like, you know what? The game's fucking sick. Shut the fuck up, everyone. like sometimes, yeah, I do say that. And that's fine. That's allowed. You know why? Because I'm a content creator. I can say what the fuck I want. But yeah, there's a reason people like casual players, people who have 40k and don't play as often, get fed up with it. Because I do this full time. I play competitive tournaments. I paint armies every single day. You know, I try and paint anyway. Here we are. I say that regularly. I do say that regularly. Shut the fuck up. You don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, so like there's so many people out there that don't dedicate as much time to me as me, and they're content creators and they make 40k content and they don't dedicate as much time as me, and they don't know what they're doing in the game. And then there's people even way more casual than that play the game once every couple of months, maybe once a year. I don't know. They love painting models and then they like to get them out and they don't know what to do with them. So it's just a bit like, Yeah, it's like, it's good for the game, but I'm apprehensive about how they're going to do it. Because they said the app's going to be available day one. Don't believe you. Are they going to be releasing all the digital rules via the app? Fucked it. You know? That's a nice picture, that. That's a nice picture. That is a nice model. I'm excited to paint it. I can't wait to paint it as a blood raven. It's going to be so funny. I am doing it. Don't worry. But I think the problem that they have is like Age of Sigmar is a lot easier to get into. It's a lot simpler. So I think that's probably the what they're trying to go for. They're gonna go, you know.
Morning, mate.
Hey, Ross.
What do you call two octopuses that look the same? Tentacle.
Tentacle. Well done, mate. Thank you so much for the super chat, man. Good to see you. I hope you're doing well. What time is it where you are? What time is it where you... Is this a good time to stream? I'm still sat at 100 viewers. That's quite good for me. That's quite good. But yeah, I think apprehensive is the word I'm looking for. That's where I am. Around 11 p.m. So this is a good time to stream for Australians. I remember when I got back into 40k, this GW story player tried to sell me into AOS so hard, saying it's easy to play. Yeah, like AOS has less going on. That doesn't mean it's a bad game. What AOS has that 40k doesn't is more interesting missions. The missions for Age of Sigmar are really interesting because there's a lot going on. So you have command abilities, which it sounds like you're gonna have something similar. You know, like a character, like for example, that lad there. So yeah, so like Age of Sigmar, the best thing that Age of Sigmar has is the missions, because the missions are way more interesting to play because there's a lot more going on. You'll have like an objective in the middle that explodes halfway through the game and moves. You'll have where the corners of the board are actually connected. You can teleport through them. So if I'm studying the bottom left of the board, I can teleport to the top right, for example. So like it has really interesting stuff like that, and the data sheets or the war scrolls they call them in Age of Sigmar, have a lot of rules baked in, but like each character has a unique command ability and you spend command points to use them. They're essentially stratagems linked to characters, and it sounds like 40k wants to go the same way. I don't want to teleport around the board. Well, no, but what I'm saying is that's per mission, you know? You could already teleport around the board with some armies, but each mission is very unique, you know? The whole point, it's not teleports, it's because that mission in particular, I haven't even looked at the new missions, I don't know what's going on. But, person between the keyboard, shut the fuck up, that's on Des. But was it, person between keyboard and chair, is that what that means? I read that as a Twitter handle yesterday, I laughed. Yeah, so the whole point is the board's connected, it's a series of tunnels, and you can teleport between them, but you just, you know, you removing the board and put that down. That's how it works. But that's put mission by mission, which makes it really interesting, whereas 40k doesn't have that. There's no granularity between the missions. It's different deployment types, different objective layouts, and sometimes you might have an action to do. But yeah, so the main thing that Age of Sigmar has is like the characters have the stratagem locked to them. So each character has a command ability. Sometimes you have generic ones, but not many. There's like a couple of generic ones that everybody has, but I mean, there's not many faction specific ones that are really, really, really broken. Like everyone has all out attack. So when you attack something, you get +1 to hit. Everyone has all out defense. When you get attacked, you can give yourself +1 save. You know, everyone has redeploy. When you move too close, you can move D6, kind of like the one from Heresy. It's basically the same. Hey, your janks are still here despite the time. Only the good ones, clearly Justice. Clearly only the best ones, like yourself. But yeah, so like 40k doesn't have interesting missions. So like if they redo that, that'll make it really, really interesting game. That's the one downside to 40k. Every mission feels very the same, especially if you've got an army that has really good secondaries, you know? Space Marines. I'm going to turn up to my game. Right, what are you playing? Right, okay, I'm going to take Codex Warfare. I'm going to kill your units. I'm going to take Shock Tactics, take some objectives off you. I'm going to be in the middle of the board without a moment. Every game, 5 games in a row, you can do that and win. Whereas they just don't have that. They don't have that in Age of Sigmar. It's every mission is interesting. You have unique battle tactics, which are per turn. So I hope they do a really big overflow or like overhaul. Sorry, not overflow. An overhaul of the missions, because that's my biggest complaint of 40k. And if they make it simpler, if they make it so it's way more accessible to people, that's great. But I think there's like a bar, right? There's like a limit. Like Monopoly is great because it's really simple, but it's quite samey. It's the same every time. Someone buys some houses, And you buy all the houses so people can't buy houses to make hotels. You just have, I'm going to keep 4 houses. I don't want a hotel. But it can get savey. If you play it every week, it's going to feel the same every time. So you just want like complexity to a point. And I think they've gone too far now. And then people just get overwhelmed. And then it just becomes echo chambers of people complaining about stratagems when stratagems, in my opinion, aren't that bad. You know? But I'm a competitive player who does it all the time. You know? I'm someone who's in it all the time, so I don't see it. But I can appreciate it. That's what I'm trying to say. I said this a bunch already, so sorry about that. Don't worry. It's all good. But do you think some of the complexity could come in having multiple armies of renown or per faction / sub-faction? Because that would have been an easy way to put it back in. Yeah, but does that add complexity? You just change a couple of stratagems? It's going to be... we don't know. We're just guessing, aren't we, right? For me, personally, it's that some factions have better stratagems than others. Or should I say, in my group, there's some with more useful than others. Yeah, for sure. Like, look at, like, the old Space Marine Codex. And there's, like, loads of stratagems that are just shit. Again, like 8th edition. If you have a whirlwind and a like I spoke about the pay phase, the same example. If you have a whirlwind and a land speeder, and the land speeder can see a target the whirlwind can see, I got +1 to hit. It's like, that's just silly. But then there's like world eaters, fucking, I'm gonna give my 8-bound a free move when they get shot. You know, that's really good. They've also said it'll be the quickest game ever, like last edition and the one before that. How many seconds do you think they've shaved off a 5-turn game? Yeah, literally. It's actually a 4-turn game now, and everyone has half their army still alive at the end. Yeah, it's a bit like, unless they make everything pointed higher, then it doesn't matter, does it? You know? It doesn't matter. It's just going to be a really long game. The problem is with the game, is every time they make points, every time they make stuff more expensive, the tournament players want to play with all their toys, so they make the game more points. In 7th edition, we used to play like 17 and 1850. 1850 point was really common. But then 8th edition came out, and they made things really expensive. So everyone just went, oh yeah, we'll just play 2K. You know? The game size you play Strike Force, isn't it 1,500 points or more? Or maybe I'm doing that wrong. Maybe I remember that wrong. So like, they can only make it quicker if they make things more points, and then people continue to play the same amount of power level. The reason the game's finished these days is because some person gets blasted off the board, and there's not a lot left. It still takes 3 hours to roll it out. 10th edition was Age of Sigmar the entire time, literally. All the point limits mostly set to time limits. Yeah, it's like 3 hours, so they can make the game faster. That's great, but if they're gonna, the real way they do that is they have less models on the board. I remember when a standard game size was 1,500, could easily go 7 turns and still have units at the end. Exactly. Also, if everything is tougher and the guns are weaker, is it just going to be a big scrum of combat in the middle for turns 4 and 5? Potentially, yeah. They're just going to be just loads of shit. There's just going to be loads of shit on the board all the time. And that's going to take longer. It's going to take longer to think about what each unit is trying to do. You know? That's what I reckon. I could be wrong, but that's what I reckon. So people will be like, oh yeah, they'll make the game quicker by making like Mortarion like 900 points instead of 500. And people just play 2.5k or 3k. The standard size of Horus Heresy is 3k. That takes ages to play. It takes ages to play. Because it's fucking 3,000 points so people can play Primarchs, you know? It takes ages. I think we just don't know enough. No, it's all speculation right now. That's for sure. It's all speculation right now. Because there's no rolling being caught and no moving and no thinking, just less looking for strats. Yeah, they've made it easier to pick up your army and play. But, like, tactically, you still have to think. Like, I know Iron Hands inside out, right? It still takes me 3 hours to play a game. All my Horus Heresy games take an entire afternoon. Yeah, exactly. Because you play big points, right? Are you playing 3,000 points? The standard size. So you can play with Primarchs. Or Lord of War in general. You know, like me and John had a game the other day. We played on stream. Spoilers, if you want to go watch that game back, it was really fun. Like turn one was quite, you know, it was quite quick because not a lot happened. Turn 2, I actually had an absolutely dominating turn. And then turn 3, the game was basically over. It still took us another 45 minutes to wrap the game up to work out how many points it was. You know, we obviously did some rolling to see things happen. You know, we were on stream, so I didn't want to like completely skip everything. But it's like it's still a really long game because there's like there's movement, there's so many phases in the game, which is great. There's so many turns in the game, which is great. But you can't speed it up faster unless you've got less shit on the board, in my opinion. But then again, if you've got less shit on the board, every movement, every unit that you have is way more valuable. Combat Patrol will remain simple. Yeah, and I can't wait for that because I think the problem is with 40k is they have match play, which is tournament play. It's all wrapped together. They just need 2 ways to play. Competitive tournaments and then like casual play. You know? Casual matched. Casual match. That's what they need. And all these people who don't like playing tournaments need to start saying they don't like to play tournaments and asking for casual games. Because all that happens is people are like, oh yeah, I want to play a game. All right, yeah, I'm going to play a practice game. I'm going to a tournament next week. And then they get roll stomped. It's like, I hate 40k. And it's like, no, you just asked for a right game, right? If you want to play casually, have a casual way to play. Combat Patrol, for example. I'm interested to see how that game works differently. I don't know how much I'll play. I don't know how much I'll play 40k, to be honest, if it's shit. Combat Patrol needs to be a nickname for Valorant with a Paw Patrol style badge. Hell yeah. Paw Patrol trophies. The game could be shit for all I know. I imagine it won't be too different because they know they've got the competitive market nailed. It's the casual ones they're trying to claw back. And everyone says like, oh yeah, well there's probably more casual players than tournament players. And it's like, yeah, that's probably true. But the tournament players are buying a lot of models. You know? That's the reason the stock price is still super high. Is because even if they are losing casual players, the tournament players are literally propping them up. But they buy more. The casual players don't buy a great deal. They'll buy stuff they want to paint. But they're not going to go out and buy a new army every week like 40k players, like competitive players do. So, don't they have to break the curse of good edition, bad edition? Well, 8th edition was good. 9th edition has been better. 10th edition has got a lot of work to do. Meta chases equals money bags. Yeah, literally. This is like Miniac whining when he's only played 1,000 point games. You know what? It's exactly the same. A lot of casual players are also people who just don't know how to play the game, so of course they have a bad time. Yeah, and I think that probably comes down to it quite a lot. It's like, it's always going to be difficult to match someone who has a similar experience of you. Listen, I play Smash, right? I play Super Smash Bros. Melee, right? I'm sick. I'm top 25 Marth players in the Midlands, right? Top 25 Marth players in the Midlands. Now, I've been to one Smash tournament and lost every game. And I don't think there is 25 players who play Marth in the Midlands. Because I'm probably bottom. But yeah, like, when I go rank slippy, I'm playing, like, ranked competitive video games, right? Like an esport. I get smashed. You know why? Because I'm not as experienced as some other people. All the Midlands, hell yeah. like, I get smashed by people because I'm not very good. Because I don't play enough. Is that my fault? Or is that a problem with the game? And I feel like a lot of like complaints, like again, I'm trying to like appreciate the opinion of narrative or more casual players, and it's all totally valid. I'm not trying to like diminish people's thoughts and feelings about how they feel about 40k, but there's like, if you don't play it loads, it's okay to be bad at it, and you're probably going to lose, so manage your expectations. But on the other hand, it shouldn't be so complex that you can't go and play. That's what I'm trying to say. A game having complexity and having a skill level, it should be easy to learn hard to master rather than hard to master, you know? It's okay to be bad. I went to my first Super Smash Bros. Melee tournament, right? And I played in the Ultimate round at the same time, you know? So I was playing on the Switch version and the GameCube version from 2001. And I came dead last in both. And you know what? I had a fucking sick time. I had a great time, you know? Look, I've got my original GameCube controller. Look, right here, original GameCube hardware. I've got my fucking... You can't see it. Look, I'll prove it. Look, there you go. Original GameCube hardware. I've got my USB GameCube controller adapter to play ranked games on Slippy on Super Smash Bros. Melee, and I've never won a game in ranked, okay? And you know what? I still have a great time because I manage my expectations. I know I'm bad at Melee because I don't have enough practice. But you know what? That is okay. It's okay because you can be bad at something and still enjoy it, but the whole point of it is you're supposed to learn and get better. This man defined virginity. Fuck. It's fine. It's fine. It's okay to lose and be bad. Did you pick Falco? No, I'll play Marth, mate. Marth is like the ultimate Falco counter. I'm a top ranked ITC player in my house. That's true. Me too. The thing is, when the game has set rules that are designed for tournaments and everyone is playing that rather than playing open play or with the cards. Yeah, exactly. Like, they need to, like, extrapolate that a little bit more. You know? They need to be like, this is, like, matched casual playing. Right? You got tournament... The problem always had is match play is tournament play. They sell grand tournament mission packs, and then casual players pick that up thinking it's a way to play. And it's not. It's not. Tempest of War, or just playing missions from the core rulebook, totally valid to play, right? They are totally valid. They're totally fine. You can play those and you can have a great time. But it's hard to get games of that because people indoctrinate to think, I'm playing match play, I need the latest grand tournament mission pack. And it's like, no. No, it's not right. They want simple to learn and hard to master. Yes, exactly, Cappy Chaos. Thanks, Becky. I accept it's okay to be bad as long as you don't lose to Starius. Exactly, Steve. That's exactly how you should do it. I went 05 in the first league. And you know what, Big Source? I hope you had a great time. Good point, like how the priority role in AOS is a simple mechanic that separates the good from the best. Exactly that. Exactly that. Like, I don't like the priority role, and I'm a competitive player, and I've gone full one at tournaments, okay? Still don't like it. Still think it's weird. I think it's too hard to master. I think it's too hard to master the priority role, and I think it's too hard to master 4K, you know? I think it is a very complex game. But once you're in it, and you're properly in it, and you're proper putting time in, you can get very, very good at it. But yeah, like as I said, like with Miniac, like complaining, like Miniac as a platform is allowed to say whatever he likes, you know? He's allowed to say whatever he likes, but like coming on and saying the game's shit, but then not playing the game, putting the time in, that's just wrong. You're saying you're bad at the game, and that's fine. It's okay to be bad at the game. Play other people who are also trying to get better. But like that mismatch is an issue, and I think that's what a lot of 40k problems come down to. It's the mismatch of someone who plays tournaments every other month, or every month, or every weekend, versus someone who plays every couple of months. You know, I don't do well in my Magic the Gathering events. I still like them, not as much as 40k events though, and that's probably because you play more 40k events, you're probably more accustomed to it, right? I'm a casual player. I haven't bought one mission pack. I do like the Tempest of War cards. Favorite way to play as well as Maelstrom and War 8th edition, the best edition. Yeah, like Maelstrom and Tempest of War are really fun. I don't know if they still sell those, but they should definitely promote them more and release a new pack every couple of months. Here's a new deck of cards with more secondaries in. This is why every time I say don't like something, I qualify it with because I can't focus on it or I don't play enough to keep track of it. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's like, it's okay to be bad at something. Just don't play the mechanics of the game for it, you know? Is this 40k drama scene being a little slow this month, so Mackie's calling out Miniac to get something going? I know Miniac personally, so yes. Miniac, stop being bad at Age of Sigmar. Just play better. Cringe. I'm confused. Am I supposed to be good? No, that's not what I'm saying. You don't have to be good at Warhammer. Just don't complain at the mechanics if you don't play enough, you know? Both Northern Warlord and Northeast Open are late July, and as rumours are, 24th of June is 10th release date. You won't be the first 10th edition, mate. Sorry. Well, I'm running a tournament on the 24th of June, Martin. Maybe I'm like, right, guys, get your mission packs. Get your phones out. Download your new data sets. This is 10th edition. Day 1 tournament. Day 1. That'd be so funny. That'd be like Street Hammer. Turn up with a box of models. Right, okay, what have I got? Fuck. Right, I've got my list. Go. That'd be the funniest shit. That would be the funniest shit. Let everyone turn up with 2,000 points of 9th edition and then give them a phone or tell them to get the phone out, download the new app. Day 1 rules, Mike Brandt promised. Day 1, play 10th edition. That'd be so funny. I'd have to make sure I got 54 rulebooks just to make sure, though, which would be cringe.